Hi guys and welcome to my channel. So it's been about a week and a half since I last kind of uploaded a video, and I just wanted to give you a quick explanation on that so you don't think that I'm kind of not uploading because the season's finished. Basically, I spilled a cup of Diet Coke over my MacBook. It was horrific. I have had this MacBook less than a year and it's what I film all of my videos on and edit all my videos on. So basically I was just sat down and I literally just went to grab my drink and I just flicked it with my wrist by accident. It spilled all over the keyboard. I went into panic mode, and then I kind of looked on the Apple forums on my phone and it said to kind of save it, you need to tip it upside down and leave it alone for a few days. So that's exactly what I did. Diet Coke was streaming out of the charger ports. My keyboard was sticky and covered. It was horrible, and it was horrible. But luckily for me, actually, I don't know how it happened, but my MacBook, I am now filming on it. It is absolutely okay. It's charging fine. All the programs are working fine. It doesn't seem to have been affected. I've probably taken a good year or two off the life with that accident, but it seems to be fine, so I'm back filming. I just wanted to give you guys an explanation because I don't want you to think that I'm not filming because the season's over. I like to upload at least once a week, if not twice, and I will continue to do so. Okay, so let's move on to the video. Today I'm doing a theory video surrounding Sansa and Jon marrying. Now this theory has gained a lot of traction recently and it's kind of become a very talked about theory. People are really interested in it, and so am I. I recently did a video on Dany's potential marriage candidates and I will link it below, and I'm really kind of interested to see where the Sansa-Jon relationship might go. I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of their relationship in the books and in the show, and then I'm going to go into reasons I think that they might marry, and also kind of a bit of foreshadowing about stuff that's come up that might mean they marry, if that makes sense, which it totally fucking didn't. So I've kind of got a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about. I think it's going to be a really cool topic to talk about, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, requests, or you want to discuss this theory with me, comment below. And if you do like this video and like my channel, please like and subscribe. Okay, so Sansa and Jon's history. So in the books, we see a lot more of their history than in the show. In the books, Sansa was very kind of mean to Jon in their childhood. She kind of took on Catelyn's disdain and hatred for him, and she didn't like him. She referred to him as half-brother and had very little to do with him. Jon kind of accepted it, and he didn't try and push her to kind of be his sibling. Instead, he just kind of didn't talk to her very much. They really weren't close at all. I think out of all the Stark siblings, they were probably the least close. So that has changed now, as we can see. You know, Sansa has kind of grown up a lot. She's realised, you know, that Jon is the only person she has left. We know that Arya is still alive, and so does Sansa now. However, she is nowhere to be seen. Rickon recently died, so in their minds, they are really the last two Stark siblings that have each other. Arya and Bran, they have no idea where they are, whereas Sansa and Jon are together. They had that very emotional, beautiful reunion, and, you know, they finally have family amongst all of this kind of craziness with the Starks being killed off. So it was very nice to see that, and we've seen their relationship grow a lot. We saw Sansa apologise to Jon for how she acted towards him when they were kids, and we have kind of seen their relationship grow. They had a very sweet forehead kiss in the finale, and I think it's really nice to see that their relationship has come really far. However, it is not without its animosity. Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa, spoke about it in the behind-the-scenes HBO footage. Sansa still feels a little bit of resentment towards Jon, and a bit of jealousy almost. I see it almost as a kind of escalated sibling rivalry. Sansa said that she's mad she didn't get credit, you know. I mean, she kind of swooped in and saved the Battle of the Bastard when Jon really fucked up by kind of taking Ramsay's bait. She swooped in and she got very little credit for it, if any. I mean, I know that Jon thanked her and said, you know, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. However, I think that Sansa was expecting a little bit more. Under Littlefinger's liege, she was promised Wardeness of the North. Now, what power does she have? Jon has been crowned king in the North, and Sansa has been left to one side. I think she feels a little bit of jealousy, but I do want to impress. I'm really not putting much faith in the rumours that she's going to betray him. I mean, she finally has some family back. She has grown a lot from the kind of jealous, petty girl she once was. And I don't think she's going to betray him. I mean, Sophie Turner also made sure to say that Sansa still loves Jon very much. She sees him as kind of her last family member left. I doubt she's going to turn on him. She's just feeling a little bit kind of cast aside, as we saw in the Battle of the Bastards episode, when she kind of has a go at him, saying, why didn't you ask my opinion on the battle? I think she's just feeling a little bit left out, a little bit jealous, but I think that will pass. Okay, so there are a few kind of supports to say they'll marry, and honestly I was surprised. I looked through the books, I looked through show clips on YouTube, and I was surprised by how much I could find that actually supported this idea of this union. I was really shocked. So support to say that will marry. First of all, the showrunners seem to be pushing this idea. They seem to be pushing the idea that Ned and Kate are reborn. Sansa has always been compared to her mother, both for her beauty, her tully looks, and the fact that she has the same kind of mannerisms, demeanour as her mother. And Jon has always been compared to Ned. In the books, he's said to look a lot like Ned, almost kind of like Rob looks a lot like Ned, so does Jon, and that was one of the reasons Caitlin resented him, that he had such a resemblance to Ned. Also, Jon is very much like Ned in personality, in some ways even more than Rob was. Jon is very beholden to duty, very beholden to honour. Melisandre in the books actually says about him, the only gods he worshipped were honour and duty. So he is very much like Ned in personality. And I think the showrunners are pushing this idea that kind of Sansa is the reincarnation of Catelyn and Jon is the reincarnation of Eddard. And I think it would be a very satisfying story arc to see those kind of two people sat in the North again, together, married, that kind of thing. Another thing as well that supports the idea of their marrying is that it would keep Sansa out of Littlefinger's clutches. Now remember, Littlefinger is a very, very villainous, formidable, intelligent character, and he is after Sansa. As we know, he wants her, and I think that this makes him extremely dangerous. Now, it would make sense for Jon to marry Sansa just so Littlefinger couldn't. I wouldn't put it past Littlefinger to kidnap Sansa, I wouldn't put it past him to arrange an assassination of Jon Snow, and I wouldn't put it past him to ask Jon outright for Sansa's hand. I mean, Littlefinger saved them at the Battle of the Bastards, and Jon is very beholden to honour, and I think that he would struggle to refuse Littlefinger's claim. I mean, I think he would, out of respect of his sister, but at the same time, we have to remember that in medieval times women were used as very little more than pawns for marriage. They didn't have a say in who they married. The head of the household or the king had the say. Jon is now king in the North. He has the say to who Sansa marries, and if he wants to marry Sansa to Littlefinger, politically speaking, there is very little she could do about it. So I think that if Littlefinger were to make this bold claim on Sansa, Jon might marry Sansa just to keep her away from him, because I can't see him marrying Sansa to some northern lord that didn't support him, or some northern lord that he doesn't really know. Okay, it also would mean that a legitimate Stark would rule in the North. As we know, Jon Snow is now the king in the North. We've seen this. And I think that it's important that a Stark must always be in Winterfell. So I think that it would be really interesting to see a Stark called Winterfell. Jon Snow is not a Stark. He is half Stark, half Targaryen. And unless Lyanna and Rhaegar got married, I support that theory. I think they did, but that's for another video. I think that Sansa is more of a legitimate Stark. She is the son of Ned and Cat. She is the oldest Stark child left. So I think that her marrying Jon and kind of being queen in the North would mean a legitimate Stark rules Winterfell, and again, would be a very, very nice completion to the show, that the Starks are back in power. I mean, who didn't fucking squeal when the Stark banner fell on Winterfell? I think it would be very interesting to see that, and I think it kind of pushes this idea that Jon and Sansa will get married. Okay, and again, this would also, going back to kind of Sansa's marriage, if Jon were to marry Sansa, it would stop anyone trying to marry her and taking the North in her name. Yes, Sansa has grown. Yes, Sansa knows the world a lot more. I still think she has some of that naivety that she'll have some painted knight come and sweep her off her feet. I think if a northern man were to make a claim, treat her extremely well, be kind to her, I think that Sansa still might fall for it. I still think she has that naivety in her. And I think Jon might marry her just to stop her running off with some northern lord. Because if she were to kind of marry another northern lord, he could make the claim that he is now the Lord of Winterfell and possibly king in the North, because he would have the more legitimate claim. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about Jon's birth, because that has huge implications for the Jon-Sansa idea. Everyone is kind of watching this video, I'm gathering, and going, ew, they're siblings, how can you, like... And I'm with you. If they were actually brother and sister, I would find this gross. But they're not, so let's go. So as we know, they're not siblings, but they are cousins, and cousins very commonly marry in Westeros. Actually, Tywin and Joanna Lannister were cousins, and they married as well. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a very common thing and was very common in medieval times. Jon's birth also means he has this claim on the North. He is Lyanna Stark's son, and again, if Rhaegar and Lyanna married, it would give him even more a claim on the North and the South. So, you know, That's interesting too. So Jon could have both of these claims, and he could kind of take Sansa as his wife to strengthen his claim in the north. I also think their relationship's going to change when they find out that Jon isn't a brother to Sansa by blood. He is her cousin. I think their relationship's going to change, possibly from a familial love to a relationship love. Those lines can get skewed in these kind of worlds. When Sansa, you know, she doesn't have anyone else in this world other than Jon, and I think that she could kind of warp her familial feelings for him into kind of relationship feelings when she finds out he's not her brother. I think that could happen, and again, it's important to impress. In the show, they now have this familial relationship. In the books and the start of the show, they didn't have that familial relationship. They didn't really like each other. You know, Sansa even said she was so awful to him. They didn't really see each other as brother and sister, so it's not like they've had this kind of 14-year brother and sisterhood. They never really had that. They were kind of strangers, and this familial brother-sister relationship has only grown in the past couple of months in the show. I think it would be very easy for them both to distort that into relationship kind of view with how short their brother-sister relationship has been. Okay, also I think that if Jon's parentage is revealed, and obviously it is going to be by Bran or by someone else, possibly if they bring Howland Reed into the show, he could marry Sansa to secure the North, because he would have a claim. This is on the assumption that Rhaegar and Lyanna married. So let's say they did. Jon is half Targaryen, half Stark, and he is legitimate. He would be the rightful heir to Winterfell as the last male heir. However, he could marry Sansa just to shore up that claim on the North and then start the fight for the South. Or he could just shore up his claim to the North so he could take on the White Walkers. I think that Jon, again, very beholden to honour and duty, will do whatever it takes to defeat the Night's King and the Army of the Dead. If that means garnering more support through marrying Sansa, I think he would do it. No, it's going to be Jon leading the fight against these. It's been foreshadowed too. He's been so involved with them. I think if marrying Sansa would shore up the armed forces in the North, he would do it. Also, let's not forget Sansa's feelings. Let's say she finds this kind of love for Jon in a more relationship type way. Sansa, from the start, has wanted to be queen. She has. In the books, it's very much spoken about how she really wanted to be queen and how she couldn't wait to kind of rule by her husband and how she really wanted to be a princess and all of this kind of thing. We know in the show she's become more and more disillusioned with that vision because of all the atrocities she has faced. However, I think if it were optioned to be her queen again, she might jump at it. I mean, look at when Littlefinger told her she would be Wardeness of the North under Stannis' rule. You could see that kind of excitement bubbling again. And I think that if Jon gave her option to be queen in the North, that kind of childlike dream of being queen and of being this important figure would come back. And I think that might drive her towards Jon even more. So that's pretty much all I have. I mean, I have a couple of quotes that talk about their relationship and how much they really do care for each other. You know, even if it is in a brother-sister way, they have this love for each other, and Jon does go out of his way to protect Sansa. I mean, look at the reunion when Sansa says, "Where will you go?" and Jon says, "Where will we go?" I mean, it's kind of a protective thing. When Sansa is talking about getting to Castle Black and she says, "Once we're with Jon, Ramsay won't be able to touch us." Because again, she trusts Jon. She believes he will protect her. I think it's really been pushed into us by the show that Jon and Sansa are kind of this duo team almost. They have each other and really no one else. They are kind of very protective of each other, and I think that could translate into this kind of husband-wife relationship that would in itself be an extremely strong kind of relationship and match, just like Ned and Caitlyn. So yeah, that's everything I have today. That's just my opinion. If you don't agree with it, feel free to tell me why below and we can kind of hash it out. I think I'm leaning more towards the idea that they will marry rather than Jon and Dany. I think Jon and Dany is way, way too cliche, way too easy. I think it would be much more interesting for Sansa to marry Jon and Dany to marry someone else, possibly Jaime. But again, if you want to hear my thoughts on that, go and check out the video below on my kind of Dany matchmaking video. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. I will be back soon now that my MacBook is gloriously okay, and I will be back probably in a few days actually, because I really need to upload some more because I left you guys for a week. But yeah, I will see you soon then, guys. Bye!